And the last company I worked for was based in Prague. So I took my wife, stupidly, I took her to Oktoberfest. Thinking it'd be like Mardi Gras, be fun. And we didn't have a reservation for a time. You've been, obviously.
Yeah.
And so we ended up in this like little a wine place.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But it was still cool. Like once you I went to school in Portland. That was an excessive drunk into the bottle. No, we did the whole thing. Like I was wearing she was wearing a journal. And like, man, I would not have fun like walking the presence of just like watching to see if anyone was going to. Okay. I think we're good. Cool. Thank you. I just have to do projector on, but that's fine. As usual, I'll help yourself.
Yeah, so me being that with Techstars.
And now you work here.
I moved to Boston. I'm married.
My wife is good. You just got married.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was looking to see if you keep playing with it. You get, yeah, because that's the thing you do in the first few months. It's like, actually, this one you play with. Oh, wow. That's amazing.
If you are able to,
My wife bought it.
yeah, if you go near someone,
I don't want to look at how much it costs.
first I guess you
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, guys. Now, clearly, there's a device in there that keeps track of it. Mine is kind of weird in that it's square. And so I didn't know that there was anything like tennis. It's called a sham. Yours is cool.
got my money.
I've heard that line before.
So we'll take some consultants.
Yeah.
Make sure you're right. Photoshop. You can try it.
Actually, she knows it's on her like page to say that she did.
So it's even worse. You're like turning her on or something like that.
I've seen that. Yeah, because I lost the first one.
The story's getting like worse and worse than expected. Quit while you're ahead.
The race that I did get, I got in a.
Happen until the next one.
Well, then I lost that one. I'm barely even
Keep it like in your wallet or something.
Usually, yeah. I do, except for I watch yours. That's why I thought anyway, yeah.
If we wanted to cut this, no. But it was in the Tariq is actually starting off our presentation, which is amazing. Actually, it would be a great candidate for Techstars. No. That's a Todd. That one you thought I've been waiting, guys. I mean, the name is amazing. I can't believe you got the .com.
Yeah.
It took me a go out together, they used to talk softly like this. And it's pretty easy to remember. Yeah, but if you think of it, there's like this friendly love. Yeah. No, we got it.
Well, I was at the demo day. I get my fair share of pizza because I really
So you
I'm on the pizza.
my wife I can do whatever you want.
A lot of times normally I would never really think about it.
Somebody's doing it again. Yeah, yeah.
So stellar. That's easy to get to.
I'm also not truck water. Just a basic.
I'm like, it's not enough time. Like, not anyways.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I went to her meetup. She had one person in the kitchen.
We all have that experience. We're like,
Behavior definitely changes to see.
That's a nice name. I'm very excited about it. Oh yeah, one square still. That's deep. That's really deep. That's like really deep. I don't think that'd be fit for her. She's all about marketing. Marketing is about, how to say something, what goal,
Hey guys, welcome. We are going to get started. My name is David Emler, one of the organizers of the Austin Hardware Startup Meetup. By show of hands, for how many of you is this your first meetup? Not just this one, but first meetup ever. Oh, awesome! Thanks for breaking your meetup cherry with us. How many of you, this is your first Austin Hardware Startup meetup? Awesome, welcome. And welcome back to some familiar faces. For the newcomers, our format is pretty standard. We meet third Thursday of every month here, and we like to start off with a few demos. So if you're working on something cool and you'd like to demo it at our next meetup, please email the organizers. We like to have 1 or 2 featured speakers, and then at the end we kind of do an open announcement. So if you're looking to hire people, if you're working on a cool project and you're looking for co-founders, if you're looking for a job, or if you're just new to the community and you want to introduce yourself, say hi. And then kind of eat and drink until 8:30. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sharif Zaidan. Sorry, I messed up your last name. Sharif is going to demo virtually his new project called Zerger. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Sharif. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Hi, thank you for coming. My name is Sharif Zaidan. I just moved to Austin about 2.5 months ago, and I'm working on a project I would like to share with you tonight. Just a little bit of background about myself. I've been in the industrial robotics and automation market or industry for about 10 years now. The last 4.5 years, I've been working as an engineering manager at BMW, the main headquarters in Munich, developing, designing, and leading teams to build robotic-based production system for their production, for their electric car production, the BMW i3 and i8. So we've been all following the tech news and seeing how robots are, hearing about how robots are taking over our lives and how everything will be automated and how we'll be riding in autonomous cars in 3 to 5 years' times. If you have a Tesla, you knew that already. But what I've been missing is, the robots, physical robots that we were promised in the 80s, right? When you go to the shop and you see a robot serving you, making you a sandwich or giving you like the product you need. And I was thinking, being in the industry for a long time, what are like the industries that haven't been affected by that? And one of the biggest industries actually that hasn't been disrupted in a while and needs that disruption is the fast food industry. So I'm going to show you some facts that are pretty surprising for a lot of people, but actually they are true. You can check them up online. First of all is the market of the fast food industry. In the United States alone, it's about $200 billion. And you know what? 25% of that is wages. Even if they get low wages, it's still 25% of that. In a low margin business, raising the wages, minimum wage increase will lead to a squeeze in the profits of those fast food industries. So the third fact is not a problem in itself, but it's a fact that I've been observing and a lot of people in the industry know, is that robots, and I'm talking about industrial robots, right? Like not commodity robots, not toy robots, but industrial robots, industrial sensors, industrial actuators, they're getting cheaper by the minute. So if you combine all that, you can get a solution by combining those technologies together that have been there in the industrial domain for a while now, to create the fast food, create the future of fast food, which is personal, quick, and high quality. By personal, I mean if you have end-to-end automation, you can gather data from the user to offer them specific and customized menus. All right? Quick, robots are really quick and efficient. We all know that. And high quality, well, we all know that if you pissed off that waitress, you gotta get boogers in your burger. Well, robots don't have boogers and they can't really get pissed off, right? So consistency and high quality is something you get with a full automation system. So the vision is basically this, which you see right now on the screen. And I think a lot of you believe that in the next 5 to 10 years' time, we'll have end-to-end automated food production and delivery systems. So if you look at this picture, you see a lot of things that are already out there, like ordering online or ordering from an app that's already there. I don't know this. Oh, here, right. The delivery, there's a lot of like robotic startups that are working on the delivery systems, either like land-based or drone-based. And there is a specific amount of automation going on, but end-to-end automation is still not there, and that's the vision I am pursuing. So this is just some rough renderings of how a Zerger outlet would look like. This would be a small outlet. Maybe it could also, like, the systems could fit in a trailer. Not a trailer, sorry, what was it? Food truck, not a trailer. Right? So that would be a food truck-based Zerger outlet. And I want to share with you a small video for a prototype that I built in the last 2 months with a very low budget and with the help of a friend of mine. So I'm gonna go back. So the amazing thing. Thank you. we could applaud that. So the amazing thing about this project is, or the idea is, that technology is already out there. I mean, these are standard. These are standard components that have been in the digital domain for a while now, getting cheaper, and they're really reliable. You could use them. One thing I want to mention here is that the hidden aim, or like let's say the back end aim of this project, is actually to develop robotic technologies that are easy to deploy and use. So that's why I've also wanted to show you this tool exchanger system. So this tool exchange system is basically a way to transform any kitchen tool to a robotic tool really easy using a tool adapter. So we just easily convert any kitchen tool, like for instance, spatula turner, to be a robot tool using that small adapter, and then the robot can easily, take it, use it, and then put it back. So you could hook any kind of tool here to the robot with an easy to use tool exchanger. So that is one of the things I'm working on. The second thing is like software to increase the rate of adaptability, how to increase or how to make it easier to program the robot in that setting. If you change something, if you change a part of the menu, it should be easy to program the robot. It's easy to tell a person to do that, but a robot is pretty difficult to do that right now. So that's something I'm working on right now. And furthermore, if you look at, for instance, all those health delivery startups that are popping up right now, for like Sprig, for instance, or Munchery, they're concentrating on their menus, how they create their menus, and they're concentrating on the quality of the food, and they're concentrating on, it's just autoplaying, right? I'll just close it here. Okay. So those. Yeah. So if you look at like I said, the Sprig, Munchery, they're concentrating on the quality of their food. They're concentrating on their logistics. But if you think about those startups that want to hyperscale, want to increase their activity in all cities at one time or at the same time, they need to have systems that could automate the back end in a very efficient way. So this is also one of the things that I'm aiming for with Zerger, is to create those systems and to be the go-to guy or go-to company for automating back-end production of healthy food delivery startups. Yeah, so what I'm looking for investors. I'm looking for people that are interested in being in that space. And thank you for coming. And if you have any questions, just shoot. Thank you. One more thing, it's zerger.com, igotha.com. So just log in, you'll see the videos on it.
Are there time for questions now? Or
I don't know. Yeah, sure.
Oh, I was just curious about what you use for your toolpath software for that robot arm.
I use the standard robotic software.
What is it? What software are you using for the 5-degree freedom arm?
It's 6 degrees of freedom, and it's
6 degrees.
yeah, it comes with proprietary software. So
Oh, okay, so
yeah,
it's
you don't I didn't do any custom software development in that case.
I see. What brand of robot arm was that? I couldn't tell.
It's called Universal Robots.
Okay.
It's the biggest, we call it collaborative robotic, collaborative robot arms on the market right now. They were bought by Teradyne 2 years ago, like for a big sum. They're a Danish company.
Nice. I was curious. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah.
Why do you want to support customization? Shouldn't you just have like one version of firmware is plain and one's cheese and that's it?
No, actually, let me put it this way. Like I mentioned before, I work at BMW. Okay, and what we have at BMW is all the cars on the product line, on the production line, are customized. So you have basically, as a user, if you want to buy a BMW, you have 2,500 options for a car, and you can customize everything, like from the stitches on your steering wheel to, I don't know, the paint on in the trunk, for instance. Okay. And actually, one of the things that made those like luxury car companies be that successful is the level of customization they provided. And having an automated system that is flexible enough to be customizable, that will give you a huge competitive edge and compared to other people. So right now, if you go to a burger joint and order a burger and then tell them like, you know what, I don't want cheese on it, or I don't want, if it's a standard burger, I don't want tomatoes, it has to be a special order. But here, everything is customizable. So you can basically, have like 10 options and like 10 to the power, I don't know what configurations.
But aren't you jeopardizing your success by taking on too much?
No.
So, how are you managing the chaotic parts of that process that are not really deterministic? Like say I want like a leaf of romaine lettuce on my burger, and that's something that, doesn't land on the burger in a predictable way. It's, the leaf could be any of 1,000 different shapes.
Right.
You could place it down and it could roll off just
Right.
because of its own, contours and geometry. How do you manage those kind of fuzzy parts of the process?
That's actually not a big deal. I mean, you have to for each part that you're going to add to the system, you have to have a kind of dispensing system for it. For instance, you saw how the buns were dispensed from those tubes. I call it the bun gun.
Right, so the
Okay.
bun, that's easy. The burger, that's easy. The slice of cheese, that's easy, because those are deterministic shapes.
Well, you make it deterministic. For instance, the lettuce, you don't have to. You can't just put a piece of lettuce on it. You have to probably cut down the lettuce to like manageable pieces, and then after that, you'll have a dispensable system that is reliable enough to dispense those pieces on the burger. But I mean, we went to the moon, so I think like dispensing lettuce is not a big deal. So, I mean, I understand, totally understand, but think of it this way, like I said, back to the production scenario thing. We had a cycle time of 58 seconds, which means like every 58 seconds, a totally customized car rolls out of the production plant, right? Totally customized means a car has, BMW has like maybe 35,000 parts on average,
Right.
and every part is customized.
So my question was about like, does the solution involve some kind of advanced machine vision or that sort of, interpretive problem solving, or are you just getting out of the problem by managing the parts
No.
and making everything consistent?
No. I mean, what you saw was really something built for under $2,000 in like basically in a garage, right? But if you're going to do that on an industrial scale, it's going to be a bit more complicated, and there's a lot of stuff we have to like deploy, but not necessarily deploy. Like for instance, machine vision. I would, for instance, do machine vision for like where the burgers are right now, but that's also standard. So that's what I meant by you could deploy standard technology that are already out there on the market for your needs. So, questions?
Yeah, I got one. So the system that you're working on, it isn't necessarily limited to burgers, right? It could be submarine sandwiches.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, you could do like, not tacos. I don't want to do tacos, but you can,
Right, yeah.
maybe. Actually,
Let's step on torches too.
okay, no. One of the funny things one of the funny facts here, fun facts, not funny. Fun facts is like that universal robot that you saw in the video. The company that created that robot like about 8 years ago, what they wanted to do was in the beginning, they wanted to create a robot to make pizzas. So that was really intended for pizzas, and now you find in every automotive production facility worldwide. Okay, so one more question. A lot of questions. People love burgers. But you had a question, right?
Yeah, it was mainly more about the reasoning behind why you picked a arm for this. It was like, say, I guess, like taking 2 heated grill plates and slapping that on top of like 6 burgers, and then having to go through the dispensing.
You missed the recreational value here.
Okay.
If you go in a burger shop and you see a machine that dispenses a burger, you're gonna probably go there once or twice. But if you go to a burger shop and see robots that are doing that, that's so
it's the
different.
appeal factor.
Yeah, I mean, I've saw people. I've been in the field for 10 years. I still get mesmerized when I look at robots doing something, and people miss that value somehow. And that's what I want to capture also with that game. So that was that was the last question, but I'm still available. I'm not gonna go anywhere, and you can connect with me. Thanks.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sharif. We have time at the end too, just for some networking and schmoozing. Feel free to bombard Sharif then as well. One of the coolest things about this meetup is it's a unique kind of amalgam of lots of different people from different areas of hardware startup creation. There are hardcore hardware hackers in here. There are product developers in here. There are salesmen in here. There are people who do all of those things. By show of hands, out of curiosity, how many of you are in the process of launching a hardware startup? Awesome. How many of you are looking for investment? Okay. How many of you have actually been through a accelerator? Okay. So good segue into Techstars. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Jenny Fielding. She is the managing director of the Techstars IoT program in New York City. And previous to that, she was at BBC Worldwide doing venture development.
Yeah, I run our venture fund.
And that means investing as well.
It does.
So she's going to tell you a little bit more about Techstars, about their IoT program in New York, and please ask her questions, not just about Techstars, but about just the general investment world as well. So please welcome Jenny.
How many of you guys here have heard of Techstars? Cool. It was demo day today, so it's pretty exciting. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit, just very quickly run through some slides on Techstars so you have a sense of kind of what we do and our scale, and then more particularly about the IoT program that I run. And then I'll just take Q&A and be around to chat with any people that are interested in the program. So Techstars has invested in 840 companies, and in that portfolio we have, depends how you characterize these companies as IoT, but between 50 and 60. So we have a really large portfolio, and I manage that portfolio. This year we started an Internet of Things program. We've run 2 before, but this year kind of with a new group and a new face to it. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that. But just basically, what is Techstars? So we're a bunch of things, actually. Some people think of us as an accelerator. Some people think of us as a fund. We recently merged with Startup Weekend, and so we are actually all those things. We're a venture capital fund, and we reach entrepreneurs at all points in their journey through entrepreneurship. And so sometimes that's through Startup Weekends and Startup Week, and sometimes that's through a Series A investment. All the people that run Techstars programs, the founders of Techstars as well, we're all entrepreneurs. So we all started and exited businesses. And so that's our DNA is founder first. We are mentor driven, which means that aside from a few people on staff, everyone are volunteers that are all kind of giving back to the network, and that network consists of 5,000 mentors. And those are now alumni, those are industry experts, they're corporate partners, all part of the Techstars network. So there are a lot of accelerators out there and a lot of people trying to help entrepreneurs, and that's awesome. But I always tell entrepreneurs, look at what the results are. So we've invested in 838 companies. Those companies have raised over $2 billion in funding. We now have 170 employees. When I started 2 years ago, we had 30, so we're scaling too. And 77% of our companies of that 838 are still going strong, 77%, and 12% have been acquired. So our numbers are looking pretty good. We've been around since 2007. So Techstars IoT. We believe that IoT and hardware is hard, and that the best way to do that is to surround yourself with resources and corporates that can that have deep expertise in different areas that can help you in your journey. that has been kind of the Techstars model. We run what we call city programs, so we have one here in Chicago, any type of company can apply. But then a few years ago, corporate started coming to us and saying, hey, you guys are really good at this early stage investing, that's not our core competency, will you run these accelerators on our behalf? And so we run these vertical accelerators with corporate partners. So we run like the Disney Accelerator around digital media, we run the Barclays Accelerator around fintech. And so the IoT one is unique in that we have a consortium of awesome corporate partners that all contribute to this program. And so our partners we're excited recently to announce include GE and their advanced manufacturing group, Bosch and their expertise around sensors, Verizon when it comes to distribution, SAP on the software side, and PwC. And people are like, how does that fit in? But companies, startups need distribution, and they need partners, and they need customers. And so if anyone has a good roster of customers, it's PwC. And any corporate you'd ever want to get to is kind of in part of their network. And so what did they actually contribute? I mean, these corporates are investing in my program. So they're actually putting money into this. They're putting their time, they're putting their mentorship, they're putting their products and services. And those cover a range of areas that all kind of contribute to what we think entrepreneurs need help with. And this isn't just kind of what we think. We've now invested in 50 companies, and we realize these companies have the same pain points. And so we've assembled what we think is a really great group of corporates who can, in addition to our mentor network, help these companies. So how does the program work? So we are an accelerator in that we have a program. It's a physical space. It's located in New York. The expectation is that founders move to New York for that time. We invest capital, so we invest $120,000 into every company. We also have a venture capital fund that doubles down on investments coming out of the program. So the first month is really focused on mentors, and each startup will meet over 100 mentors in that time. Not just kind of random ones that are really selected to help you. And then also the corporate mentors, and so I'll talk about that a little later. The second month we focus on traction, partnerships, pilots, trying to move, our program, unlike other hardware accelerators, which is focused on building the hardware, we're really about building a business. And so that second month is like focused on traction, metrics, moving the business forward. And then the last month is about fundraising, and so you'll be introduced to, hundreds of investors, and really we'll spend a lot of time with you crafting that story you need to raise capital. We are a venture fund, and so with our investment comes an equity component. Can talk to you all about that, anyone who's interested. And then what we look for. So, we get hundreds and hundreds of applications. We take 10 companies, and we really don't look at products as much as we look at teams. And so, as much as other people say that, our experience has been awesome teams pivot, and we have lots of examples of that, within our hardware portfolio. And so we're looking for great founders. We don't usually take single founders unless they have, awesome teams that they've assembled already. But within hardware, there's a lot of stuff you need to cover. So having that foundational team is key. And then the areas that we're looking at. So we're taking a very broad look at IoT and really looking at software platforms and then the verticals that go with that. So some of the areas are smart manufacturing, home automation, obviously a big one, wearables, smart cities and urban tech, automotive, big one for us as well. But then we're looking at things like VR and AR, which some people think of as IoT and some people don't, but we're again taking a very broad look at that. Robotics, logistics, fintech maybe, energy, utilities. So very broad in terms of verticals. Again, we look for teams first. And so our applications are open right now. And so, we are actively, I'm kind of going around the world, meeting with entrepreneurs, and actively looking for that awesome group of 10. So if you guys are interested, our applications are open until July 10th, and the program starts in September. So that's about it. Happy to take any questions, either now or afterwards. Anyone have any questions?
I'm kind of curious, like, how would you describe the kind of companies that, and what stage they're in, and teams, and the stage that the team is in, that you're generally ready to accept or would persuade to apply for your program, say, and the kinds that you might dissuade from applying to your kind of program? Like, give me a little more detail about what that looks like when you're like, oh, you guys would be perfect for us, or maybe you're a little later down the road, you want to come in at some point. I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you're thinking of it as product first, and we're thinking of it as founder first. So in my last program, I had, 2 guys with an idea, and that was pretty much it. And I had a company that had raised a Series A. They'd raised $4.5 million, and they came through my program. And they already had a product in market and, a pretty significant revenue. So again, we're looking for founders. I know that's I know it's a little unsatisfying, but yeah. So I would say that somewhere in the middle is maybe our sweet spot. So founders that if it's actual hardware, that they have a prototype. And that they're ready to start partnering with big, corporates.
Describe what a good founder is to y'all. Can you tell me what that's like?
I mean, again, I think it comes back to the foundational team. So people that are credible, that have experience in this field, people who've built startups before. People that have awesome relationships with their co-founders. Maybe they've worked together at another company. Maybe they've given up a lot to start a startup. Maybe they have families and they had a big job and they've given that all up to start a startup. I think those are some of the traits for amazing founders. And then again, with hardware, I think it's hard to be a single founder, especially. I think the skill sets that are complementary. We are looking for people that have software expertise on the team, hardware expertise, some business. So oftentimes the teams are a little bit larger.
I have a question over here.
Yeah.
So how does it work? You said you all have done Series A investment and you've had kind of later stage companies that have been a part of it. So say you have a product in the market and you have 20 employees. How do you get the whole executive team and the founders to go to New York for a couple of months while you have your product in the market and you're trying to run the company?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it is a big commitment, right? We don't necessarily have a whole team that would come. So if you have a very typical scenario would be there's a development team. We get this quite a bit. There's a development team, in another country, and so the CTO comes and say the other founder. So maybe 2 out of the 10 people come. So we're flexible to a certain degree. The reason we want people in New York and we want as many people there is really because so much of what we do is actually not scheduled. So as much as we would love to be able to say these are the important days, when the CEO of a big company walks in and just happens to be there, if you're not there that day, it's like I can't necessarily invite him or her back, right? And so I think that's one of the reasons is that we just want people there, is because during these 3.5 months, New York, our office, becomes a little bit of a center for IoT. So every founder, every investor in hardware, pretty much globally, every corporate who's interested in IoT will be through our doors, and so it's a great opportunity to capitalize it. If you're just one person's there, it's going to be hard for you to run your business and also be taking advantage of all this incredible opportunities. And so that's why it's really important that there's a few people around.
So there's time during the day to run the business?
There's definitely time during the day. Yeah, we're not. It's not school. We're not packing your schedule. What I always say to everyone is like, I put out the buffet and you take what you want, right? And so there's so many resources that we're putting out there, and it's for you to decide what works for you. Any other questions? Yes.
When is your next round after July 10th?
Not really sure. So we usually run one of these a year. So the program actually doesn't start July 10th. That's applications closed. The program starts the end of September, and it'll run through middle of January. We usually run once a year. I may condense it and run next summer. So not this summer, the summer after, which would be a little unusual, but not really sure. Yes.
So the application that you're talking about, is it just for IoT type
Yes.
projects?
Yeah, so this is just for Techstars IoT, which is just the program that runs once a year in New York with those corporate partners.
Maybe this is getting too tactical, but when I've ever heard about, accelerators, I always wonder about just like practical things like living expenses. Like what do people typically, are people coming that have full-time jobs as well and they do it, or is the equity money that is invested, that the assumption that that's gonna pay for living? Like I just always wonder how that works, because you've got this element of, well, I gotta live, you gotta, have living expenses while we're there, and then also run the company.
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually don't accept founders that have any other work except this. So we're looking, when you come, again, coming back to what we're looking for in teams, sorry, that should have been the first thing I said, is we're looking for full-time founders. So not side projects, and not, you're doing this part-time. We're looking for people that are all in. And sometimes when they apply, they're actually not all in, right? Because they're supporting themselves and whatnot. But they get into the program and they leave their jobs, and we give them $120,000 as an investment, and so they come to New York and they really, they maximize it. I think it's one of the things that's really magic about the accelerator is that everyone who comes, last year my class had 6 international founders out of 11, right? And so everyone that comes is there because they want to be there, right? And so, they're working all the time just to maximize on every little detail. Or every little opportunity, I should say. So, the commitment is huge, and that's what we're looking for. Is we're just looking for people that are incredibly passionate, and they just know that they're going to do this.
How much equity do you take for $120,000? Is that fixed or is that negotiable?
Yeah, it's actually so we actually give you $20,000 for 6%. It is not thought of as a valuation event. So if you talk to the investment community, if you talk to your investors. Think of it more as adding a co-founder to your team. If you added a co-founder, if you added a foundational member and you gave them 6% of your company, no one would say, well, that's a valuation event. It's just the fee for all the resources that we give. We can't take equity without having some exchange of value, so that's the $20,000. In addition to that, we offer a $100K note, and that's at a 3 to 5 million valuation. And all of that, as soon as you sign your paperwork, you have access to that money. So that can be obviously before the program.
For the founders that come and participate in your program, do you expect them to already have formed a company, like an LLC or something of that sort?
Yeah, so we can't invest in a non-entity. So, but we oftentimes, a company is not set up before they get into a program, and that's something we can obviously help with. We have corporate legal counsel that we work with, and so happy to assist with that.
What types of services do you guys provide? Given it's IoT, hardware oriented, you guys have things like 3D printers, access to prototyping type technologies that help enable people to go through the program?
Yeah, so in my last program, we built out a really nice lab, and we found that most of the companies didn't use it, right? Because our program is really focused on building businesses and distribution rather than building hardware. So this year, we're actually in a different space, and we don't have a lab. We do have a 3D printer, but we don't have a lab, but we have a lab just 2 blocks away that founders can use. So if you actually are building and need to prototype, we obviously have good relationships with all the maker studios and everyone, but the Samsung guys down the block let us use their lab. So and the Verizon people. So we're covered for people that's an issue, but again, our lab was underused last year, so we've kind of rethought that a bit. Yeah.
This isn't just about Techstars, it's about accelerators in general.
Okay.
Let's say my team is 100% engineers, maybe hardware engineers, software engineers, 0 business experience. That's why we're looking for an accelerator. Are those considered good fits as far as when you're looking for a founder?
That's a great question. We definitely favor technical teams. And so I've had a lot of success with founders, technical CEOs go through the program and develop those skill sets. So it's definitely something that we can help supplement. What's interesting about the program is that we have kind of in-house resources as well. So we have in-house designers and we have lots of in-house business people that will help you, that are part of our staff. They're only there because they want to join startups. And so a lot of them are, MBAs from Columbia and Wharton and whatnot, and they spend the summer with us because they want to figure out like which startup they want to join. And so at the end of the program, that's like a really great thing that always happens, is that the associates wind up joining as like head of business or COOs of some of the companies. So so we do have lots of in-house resources for that, and we do spend a lot of time coaching, mentoring, and helping technical founders with some of the business attributes.
What is your email address if someone wants to plug you?
Yeah, so it's just jenny.fielding@Techstars. Please feel free to reach out to me with other questions. You can find me on LinkedIn pretty easily, Twitter, and I'll stick around for a bit. So anyone who's interested in the program, definitely answer any other questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, another quick survey. By show of hands, how many of you have purchased or supported a project on Kickstarter that hasn't actually been fulfilled on time?
Everybody?
Okay, everyone. And if you've ever brought a product to market, a hardware product to market, you know probably why. It's hard to anticipate all of the problems that happen, especially in the design phase after you get your funding and you enter into the manufacturing stage. So what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about CrowdSupply. CrowdSupply is actually a crowdfunding site, but they actually provide a little bit more support than your typical Kickstarter or Indiegogo. The CEO and founder of CrowdSupply is here, Joshua Lifton, and he's going to tell you a little bit about some of the stuff that's gone on through CrowdSupply. It's definitely a viable option if you're looking to raise some money, you're not really sure about Kickstarter, and you also need some help bringing your product to market. Josh lives in Portland, and he just happens to be here this week for OSCON, and he graduated from the storied MIT Media Lab with a PhD. So I guess it's Dr. Joshua Lifton. And without further ado, give Josh a hand.
Thanks. I was here for OSCON today. Anybody go to OSCON? Yeah, sweet. I'll talk a bit about CrowdSupply and our process and whatnot, give some examples of products that we've helped with, some that are coming up still. I have some goodies to show off that haven't yet launched in my bag if you want to check it out later. But for OSCON and for CrowdSupply in general, one of our big focuses is on open hardware, and that's kind of our sweet spot. And we do all sorts of things, but I started, as Dave mentioned, I was at the Media Lab, did my master's and PhD there, and when I first started, I was really interested in distributed systems. I thought I'd do distributed software systems. This was back in 2000 or so, but quickly discovered hardware, and so I built one of my first distributed systems, a distributed mesh sensor network. Couldn't do anything, right? I mean, it's totally useless, really, which is why I was in academia. It was useful to learn, useful to learn about mesh networking and all the different ways it can fail and protocols and operating systems and all that. But it could sense the world a little bit, but it wasn't exactly a consumer product. So one of the next things that we did in my group was try to make that useful. So this is kind of a medieval mace-like device. It's a die-cast aluminum case that has serves as a power strip essentially, and at the time it was bristling with sensors and actuators. You could sense the current and all these things. So it was somewhat useful. We distributed them around the lab and saw how people were using them, and you could tell if somebody was using a computer versus a hairdryer versus a lamp, or and if we really dug into it, which we didn't, but it's been shown you can even tell what program people are running, whether it's Windows, Microsoft Word or Photoshop, for example, just from current analysis. So this is getting closer to what today we would call IoT, right? This wasn't a term then, but it occurred to me from all this experience there that Internet of Things wasn't going to happen in the way that current investors think it's going to happen. And I'd love to talk with you about this, Jenny, later. But we think of Internet of Things, we think of, well, there's lots of things. It means we have to sell lots of things, make lots of things. That's a lot of money. Well, that's true. Now, one half of it can be made in the open source way, just like the internet was, right? They can collaborate and things like that. But the other half, I think, requires crowdfunding. And the reason is because I don't think there's a institution or an organization, a company that exists today that's going to have that entire pie, right? They're not going to own the entire walled garden of the Internet of Things. They're going to have to collaborate with other companies. They're going to have to play nicely. And that's what crowdfunding and open source do really well. So this foundation of crowdfunding and open source enables something that is not possible otherwise. I think the Internet of Things is not possible without that combination, as are a couple of other domains that we're interested in at Crowd Supply. The next domain you can approach by thinking about food, right? And this picture of peaches in a vacuum, you don't really know anything about them, right? You don't know what they taste like, you don't know where they came from, you don't know, are they biodynamic or organic or natural or free trade, fairly traded. But in stores, you do know, right? Because there's labeling for all that. And there's a vernacular that we use when advertising and when judging products in a grocery store. And that's decades ahead of what we have for something like this, a laptop. This is a laptop that was funded on Crowd Supply, but in a vacuum, you have no idea what's in it. You don't know how it was made. You don't know really anything about it. You don't know if the manufacturer, as Lenovo did last summer, has installed spyware on it intentionally, so that it could sell data about you to an advertiser, right? There's no labeling system for this sort of thing. And that's something that we're trying to change. And the general category of products that fight for the people who own them, for the user, as Tron would say, is another example of how the combination of open source and crowdfunding enables products that otherwise wouldn't exist. There's no motivation for Lenovo to behave nicely, right? When they don't have to. People are going to buy their products anyway. But if those people who are upset about it instead buy the laptop I just showed you, which I can show you later in my bag, then we have a say. And the third and final category that falls into this, that is enabled by this bedrock, is complex tools, right? Where Arduino is not a complex tool, it's a very simple tool. It's a fantastic ecosystem, right? But the complexity is an ecosystem, not in the tool itself. I, as an engineer, can go design something like an Arduino in a room by myself. I can have it made without leaving my house online. It's not a complex tool like we have today with, say, the Snickerdoodle, this is a product that came out funded last fall on Crowd Supply. This is very much like an Arduino, but for FPGAs, and it's insanely complicated. But it's complicated to make and design, but it's easy to use. That's the idea. So it's bringing FPGAs into the realm of makers and hackers who maybe aren't experts in this. And before we had the combination of open source and crowdfunding, the only way such a tool would exist is if it was done in a research lab, like a MSR or a Motorola or any of these large research labs, or in a government institution like NASA or something. And they would have no incentive to really build that ecosystem out, nor would they have the capability necessarily, and to share that. So these complex tools that are enabling the next self-driving car company, or the next 7-axis CNC machine company, are being born from crowdfunding and open source. So that combination allows things that couldn't have existed otherwise, and those are the kind of products that we're most interested in. There are some values, or I should say, they're also getting easier to make, right? This is a page out of Bunny Huang's Essential Guide to Electronics in Shenzhen book, which, if you have that book, You can use it as a point to translate guide. So if you need some diodes and you don't speak Chinese and the vendor doesn't speak English, you just use this book and you can spec out diodes or capacitors or resistors or displays or anything else. So the point is it's getting easier and easier for anyone to go and make a two-spec product, whether that's in Shenzhen or down the street. So that's what we're interested in this general field of products at Crowd Supply. We have taken projects from all over the world. We ship all over the world. I think at this point most of our projects come from outside the United States. And we're interested in products which are interested in these sorts of rights for users, right? If you're going to make something, make sure it's worth making. This is not an open source license, or it's not a legally binding document, but we are interested in people and companies and creators who can agree that these rights are important. So Curiosity, for example, I should be able to disassemble and reverse engineer whatever I buy without threat of legal action. I should be able to use the product independently of the person I bought it from. So whether there's a service provided or not, I should be able to have utility from that product without that service. The product should last its natural lifetime from wear and tear, not be bricked because the company decided it wanted you to upgrade. Ownership, for example, I don't want to lease the product from you. I want to own it outright. I want to be able to sell it to somebody else. I want to be able to modify it and do what I will with it. I want to be able to talk about it publicly or privately. I want to be able to benchmark it and compare it to other products. I want to be able to say good things about it, of course, as well. I want to be able to associate that product with other products, even if they're not made by the same manufacturer. This is kind of breaking the wall of the walled garden in a way. And I want that product to respect my privacy, and I want to have control over the data that product is generating, because more and more often that's actually the valuable thing that a product does is generate data about the user. And of course I want it to be secure. I want to be notified in plenty of time so I can remedy that security flaw. Those are the types of products that we're looking for, and which I'll show you in a moment. So that can range from something like a laptop to hot sauce. I mean, hot sauce kind of by default does all those things and tastes good. And then there's things like circuit stickers in the middle, which are electronics embedded on stickers for crafters and makers who might not otherwise use electronics or be exposed to them. Our criteria are pretty simple. It has to be a physical product. You have to have a good plan to raise the funds that you're asking for. That's kind of a marketing question and a bill of materials question. And then you have to have a good plan for actually spending the money. And that's the key thing. As Dave alluded to, there's a lot of ways you can waste money and not deliver something. And there's only very few where you actually end up delivering. So to your question earlier about what makes a good fit, we have a blog post about that. I won't go into it in great detail. But our results I've been very happy with. We have twice the success rate of getting funding than anyone else out there. Make about 3 times as much on average per campaign. And then most importantly, 100% of the products that receive funding from us actually have delivered to their customers or are on track to do so. Not all of them are on time, but those that are late are less late than you'd expect. So I want to talk about some upcoming projects, or past projects and upcoming projects around laptops in particular. 2 of the laptops we've funded are the Novena by Bunny and Zobs, which is kind of a hardware hacker's paradise. It's not really meant to replace a consumer laptop. Whereas the Purism line of laptops, the Librem laptops, Librem 13 and Librem 15 laptops, are exactly that. They're supposed to replace, with free and open source software versions, say the MacBook Pro. Very different campaigns, but both open in some different set of ways. So I won't go into this in great detail, but there's a lot of ambiguity about what it means to be open hardware, to be open source when it comes to making things, right? Of course, there's firmware, there's device software, there's host software on your computer, there's server software somewhere in the cloud. All those things can be open source in different ways, just like software can be. Then there's schematics and layout documents, there's 3D drawings, all of these things can be shared. Then there's the data generated by the devices and the API to access that data. There's more esoteric things like the documentation, right? The documentation of a laptop is actually quite proprietary. most laptops, I think, probably without exception in this room, you can't actually find out how it works, because unless you sign an NDA. And even then, they won't even give you the data sheet unless you have a good reason to have it. So it's not even a matter of asking for it and signing the NDA. It's like, unless you're going to buy the chips from them, you can't find out. And that's standard across the board. The toolchain for using, say, FPGAs is completely closed. There's no open source toolchain. So even though the code might be open source, the compiler is not, which of course is a bad thing if you're worried about injecting vulnerabilities. And then of course there's the supply chain, which can be as boring as a spreadsheet of, hey, where's this part? How many did I get for this price and from whom? But for many companies, that is the most proprietary information and the most valuable information they have. It wasn't the development of the original product. It's not the manufacturing line. It's the secret of where all the parts come from and how much they cost and how they combine into this one thing. So Novena, this is an image of the Novena. You can see it looked really different than most laptops. It opens backwards. When it does open, you can see all the guts inside, which is awesome. You can hurt yourself pretty badly, or hurt it pretty badly. There's an FPGA on board, so you can turn it into an oscilloscope or an SDR or a gene sequencer. All these things have either been done or are in the works. And it's completely open source. No NDA is required. The 3D drawings are open source. All the firmware for the battery charger, for example, is open source. It's an ARM processor, so you don't need that NDA. But at the same time, you can't run a lot of software on it. So it's for a special set of folks. One of the interesting things about this campaign is it raised over half of the $700,000 it got during the 46 days of its campaign in the last 2 days. And that was because of, I think, a clever structuring of stretch goals, but also because it's a high ticket item and people just sat on it and thought for a while. Lots of war stories about this campaign. This is the Librem 15 laptop. It's an interesting complement, right? It's not really open source at all, except that it was built specifically to run open source software. So it was built to run strictly free and open source software from the bootloader on up. And I believe it's the only laptop to do that. Below the bootloader, there's, let's skip ahead a little bit, there's tiny little snippets of code in the BIOS which are not open source, that Intel controls. And in fact, every modern Intel processor has what's called a management engine, which is essentially an entirely different world, right, in your computer. It's its own operating system, it has network access, it's on even when the computer is off, and it can access everything. And yet you don't really know about it. It kind of boots up the machine, boots up the processor, and hands it off to the BIOS or to the bootloader. But nobody knows how it works except for Intel. So that's the one piece they're trying to open up still, and that's their stated purpose, is to open that one piece. One of the interesting things about the campaign itself was when it launched, it raised about over $500,000. When it launched, it had 8 options, or 8 SKUs, 2 different options, one with 4 gigabytes, one with 8 gigabytes, and then 4 different storage options, one of which was an SSD. And by the time it ended, the campaign ended 45 days later, it had about 30,000 SKUs, including 50-odd keyboards, another whole drive bay that didn't exist before, hardware kill switches for camera and wireless and microphone, all these things in response to the audience, the crowd, really, saying, hey, this is nice, but I really want 32 gigs of RAM, not 8. So the team behind it bent over backwards, did as much as they could to accommodate that, and they were quite successful in that regard. They launched the Librem 13 just a few months later. So those are 2 laptops. That exist right now. There's this one that's coming up. For those of you who had laptops in the 90s, this might look familiar. It's because it's a PCM-CIA card, or at least the end piece is, right? The piece on the right is the 68-pin adapter. It's the shield that will come with it makes it look just like a PCM-CIA card. And it's a full-blown computer. It's running an A20 processor from Allwinner, and it has everything you need on it to just plug it into a special chassis which looks like a laptop and is basically a keyboard and display, and suddenly you have a laptop. Or you plug it into a camera, or you plug it into a tablet, or you plug it into a desktop, all of which are in the works. So the idea is you have a modular, completely modular computing that you put in your pocket. You no longer need the cloud necessarily to carry things with you wherever you go. And it's much cheaper. If one part fails, you don't have to throw away the whole computer. You just kind of replace and upgrade this as you go. This will be coming out in the next month or so. And I should say that it is 100% open in all the ways that I listed earlier in the talk. The documentation, the supply chain, the tool chain, all the parts, all the firmware, etc. All the plans, the layout, schematics, all of that. This is much sleeker, obviously. This is the Orwell. This is the world's first physically secure computer for consumer use. So the team behind this came from a background of making point-of-sale systems, which have to be PCI compliant to take credit card transactions. And there's a lot of technology that goes into that, into protecting that. This is taking that technology and instead of just applying it to transactions, apply it to all of computing. So there's a Intel i7 chip in there that is monitored by a TPM, a trusted platform management chip, that if you open that case, I think it's rated even a 0.1 millimeter hole, shuts down the entire computer, burns the private key, so you won't have any sort of access to the data. This is also open source in the sense that the schematics and layout are open source, but the actual TPM, the module that does the magic of physical security, is closed source. And so one of the stretch goals is to try to open that up a bit. So all of these, a bunch of different computing devices. I'll skip over some of these other things, but just real quickly blur through them. These are other projects that have launched on Crowd Supply. Ultimate Hacking Keyboard is one of my favorites. The point, though, is that we're focusing on open hardware, and that there's a real market for that. And these are our most successful projects, raising 6 figures or sometimes more. If you're interested, I encourage you to read our guide. You can check out the website, of course, read our guide, which is free and online. We also have resources for people who are working on projects don't want to launch yet. For example, our provider directory is pointers to, say, aluminum extruders or firmware engineers or things that people we've worked with before and have had successful campaigns. Thanks very much, and happy to answer any questions briefly. Yeah.
What level do you curate which projects you accept and reject?
We reject probably over 90% of the projects that come to us.
Main reason? What's the main reason?
There are many reasons, but they all have to do with those 3 criteria that I put up there. So either it's not a physical product, we get a lot of those actually, or you don't have a good plan. If you don't have a good plan, we'll try to help you, but sometimes you just need to change what you're doing, right?
How much effort do you put into curating those? How much man hours and/or the types of people that you have that actually look at a project and say, okay, this one for sure is probably going to make it, or this team is going to make it. Do you talk to them on the phone? Do you look at their business plan? Do you look if they've made some sales previously? I mean, do you do a really deep dig, deeper than like Kickstarter ever did? Or I'm assuming that that's kind of your main thing.
Yeah, and we spend a lot of time vetting, and the flip side of vetting, it's not just saying no, right? It's saying, here's what the problems are, how can we fix them? And here's what we recommend. And then if we come to some agreement, then great, let's go forward. If not, then it's not going to work out. So we spend a lot of time doing that, way more than anyone else, I'm sure. Yeah.
So what sort of trade-offs do you have to make to get this stuff opened up? Because I worked on an open source handset, and what we found is anything that was open, you didn't really want to use it. Like the Allwinner 820 chip is kind of doggy. You really want the Qualcomm,
right,
but they're not going to give you the time of day.
That's right. So there are certainly lots of trade-offs, but one of the things that's happening that we're seeing is is that crowdfunding is really good as that litmus test for larger companies, saying, oh, hey, there's actually demand for this, right? And we want to be part of that. So that's happening. Undoubtedly, there are trade-offs. So you can't build a modern, like top-of-the-line modern machine with just open components right now. That's something that's changing slowly, but that's the reality.
So what are the dream products that like people
Phone.
haven't brought you?
Phone.
Phone?
Yeah, and we have a couple in the pipe. Can't really talk about them, but that's. And in fact, this is actually one of the dream products. It just launched recently. This is the Line SDR. I have one in my bag. It is hands down the best SDR you can get right now for the price. It's $200 to $300. It has a 100 kilohertz to 3.8 gigahertz range. It has 120 megahertz bandwidth if it's PCIe mode. Otherwise, it's limited by USB 3.0, which is 66.4, I think. And it has a really amazing set of software that you can use with it. Most interesting is that they're partnering with Canonical, which is the maker of the Ubuntu Linux distribution. So you can go through their Snap Ubuntu Core app ecosystem, and you can download the LTE stack. You can download the Wi-Fi A stack. You can download the BLE stack. And you can run them all simultaneously. This is a 2x2 MIMO board. So it's two receivers, 2 transmitters, full duplex. So this is the sort of thing that will change dramatically the telecom landscape infrastructure. And in fact, just last night we had EE, which is the UK's largest 4G operator, buy $99,000 worth of this to deploy in the Highlands Islands in Scotland and deploy in some of their affiliated labs at universities.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what is your business model? Christ-Spice business model?
Oh, it's purely philanthropic. No. We make money off of sales. So the majority of our revenue actually comes way after the campaign. It comes from selling these devices in our store afterward. So we're really incentivized to make sure that your pricing is right, so we can buy it and make money.
Do you buy the products then, or are you?
Yes.
The makers locked in to
Nope.
you as a vendor?
Nope, there's no lock-in. Once you deliver to our backers and your backers, you can do whatever you want. And usually that includes selling to us so that we can resell. Otherwise, there's no exclusivity. We do take a percentage of sales. There's no upfront fees. How much we take depends on how much work we're doing and what kind of return we can expect. So on campaigns where we do the marketing and the media assets and the strategy, we'll take 10 to 15% of that. For campaigns where you're doing nearly all of that, then it's more like 5%. Yeah.
What are the demographics of your buyers?
Everyone. So there are no. This is what the most common misconception about crowdfunding actually. That we have customers. So does every other platform. But really, you're bringing the people to us, right? You're going out and we're helping you. Go out, tell your story to the right people at the right time, in the right place, so that their interest is sparked. They're coming, making a purchase, and they're probably not even looking at any other campaigns, right? Yeah, sure, they get our newsletter later, and they'll keep up to date, and many of them do come back. But fundamentally, it's about getting out to your audience, regardless of it's not about our platform. We'll help you as much as we can, and that's the results speak for themselves. We've done pretty well at that. Okay, thanks very much. I'll be around.
What is your email?
My email, yes. You can find me at info@crowdsupply.com or joshua.lifton@crowdsupply. And I'll be around today. I have some postcards and some name cards as well, if you'd like. And goodies to show off later. Thanks.
Thanks, Josh. Our final presenter of the evening is Todd Ronan, who is a futurist, which is in your bio. That sounds awesome. I'm probably going to put that in my LinkedIn profile tonight. And he is in charge of the outbound sales for local Re3D. I'm pronouncing that correctly?
Yes.
So how many of you are familiar with Re3D? Maybe you're more familiar with the Gigabot, which you might have heard of. Well, Todd brought some toys with him, and he's going to talk a little bit about the journey of this company and some of the things they're doing in the 3D printing world. So give a hand to Todd.
So first, let's all stand up because we had a lot of pizza, and just stretch. So we can all stand up for a second so we don't fall asleep. And you'll feel better in 20 minutes after I'm done talking. We don't need to do jumping jacks really, but so by a show of hands, how many of you have had something 3D printed? It's a pretty big number. I accept that. That's awesome. A lot of 3D printing enthusiasts here too, as you can see. So Re3D, it's actually nice that we have someone that has an incubator program here. We talked about startup. We started as a startup company about 3 years ago. Our co-founder, Samantha Snabes, was a NASA employee, and she wanted to print 3D compostable toilets. But there wasn't a printer big enough. So she went to another friend of hers at NASA and said, "Can you help me with this prototype?" And she went down to an incubator program in Chile. She left her job at NASA. She quit and was down there probably for about 3 months. Came up with a prototype for the Gigabyte 3D printer, which is very big. It's like the size of a washing machine. It prints 8 cubic feet. And they said, "Hey, this is such a great idea. You should put it on Kickstarter." And so here we are, 3 years later. We have a really big company. We're in 40 different countries now, and we have over 400 unique users worldwide. That's Re3D. We manufacture in Houston. We have a sales office here in Austin. We're in the basement of Lockheed Martin, and assemble probably 8 to 10 printers there every month. So the idea of the talk is reimagining manufacturing culture through 3D printing innovations. We see a lot of talk on the news about how 3D printing has changed things, how it's changing food, how it's changing prosthetics for people. And this here is our Gigabyte printer. The font's probably small, it's easier to see up there, but it prints 30 times bigger than a desktop printer. It's only about 3 times more expensive. It starts at $85.50, which is about a tenth the price of the next largest competitor. Their Stratasys machine that's over $120,000. So the price tag of under $9,000 is really something that we want to do to Re3D to make 3D printing affordable for people. Has a lifetime design with maintainable interlocking aluminum frame. We have all of our firmware available online. So we have sort of an open source mentality at Re3D too. You can download the plans on Wovolver for our printer and make it yourself. All of the files that we have that we use for our 3D printer are available on our Sketchfab website that you can download and print for yourself. And our last Kickstarter campaign for South by Southwest this year was for a completely open Gigabyte, which means we interviewed people in the 3D printing community and asked them what's lacking in 3D printing. So based on their feedback, we sold, I think, 12 open Gigabytes for $4,500 to $5,000 last South by Southwest, and are now delivering on those. So it took a long time, long interview process. And the printers that they got are a lot more expensive than $4,500 to $6,000. So ended up being about $8,000 probably per printer. So sometimes when you invest on things on Kickstarter, you will get more than the money that you paid for it. Here's an example of what we do at our shop. We're based in Houston, and our machine shop is there. We're built in Texas, and these are the parts that we print on our machine that are available, obviously, to download. Everything's handcrafted, made in Texas. We're very proud about that. For global outreach, we have, like I said, we're in 43 countries now. I just shipped to Guatemala this week. That makes 44 countries. About 80% of our sales are based on the East and West Coast. Nearly nothing down the middle. And 20% of our sales are worldwide. Or in the European Union out there. This customer is Circle Mold. They make seahorse cases, which are for 3D printer mold. They have electronic equipment that they were engineering and sending out for prototyping. And they found out that if they got a gigabot, they could reduce the cost of their printing to a rapid prototyping company by about 30%. So they can now specialize and make custom parts for people for the electronic parts that they sell. They can engineer things. They can do it in the gigabot. You can use any type of 3D printing program. So they're using AutoCAD, and then they can adjust things based on the types of material or the types of electronics that people want. Here's another customer of ours. They're the I can't pronounce this, but they're somewhere in Sweden. They have they're like concrete molds that they printed out of our 3D printer and are putting them on top of a building. So they have about, I think, 80 different, I don't know if you can see on the left-hand side there, they've taken the fixture of somebody walking in motion and put them on this museum in Sweden over in Stockholm. And they saved, probably 70% of what it would cost to actually have these molded, put them on the outside of the building, and they call this, I can't remember the name of it's like a new design that they're calling Super Deco, I think is what they call it. So it combines the element of like the super electronics and Art Deco. And they said it's the talk of the town, but I've never been there. So if you go to this city in Sweden, let me know if it's really the talk of the town there. I don't know if you can see this. It's a terrible color for a slide. I just realized this. So just to give you an idea of the growth of 3D printing, I stole this from Forbes magazine. It says that on the consumer side, in the future, probably the next 5 years, 3D engineering is going to be a $30 billion revenue source in organ replacement. And corporations are going to spend $20 billion on furniture and about $300 billion on consumer electronics in the 3D printing arena. Food is going to be a $23 billion industry, and global apparel is going to be a $1 trillion industry in the next 5 years, which is kind of a shocking statistic. Anyway, just some points about where this industry is going. We always see how big 3D printing is going to get, but until you see these numbers, you really don't see like how large that can be. This is a cost analysis of the price of 3D printing versus traditional manufacturing. It used to be that whenever you had to make a change to something, it would cost a lot to get that retooled. Now what you're seeing is if you make a quick iteration of something, you can print that for a fraction of the cost. In furniture design, this is something that we put on our Gigabot, just to give you an idea of the size. It took about 130 hours to print, and it only cost about $120 in materials. Weighs about 7 pounds, but now furniture design, it becomes anything that you can imagine, you can design. But if you want to make a change to this, it's only going to cost you a little bit of money. You don't have to pay for a new tool to be tooled. We're a social enterprise company, so for every 100 printers that we sell, we donate one to charity. This is a small community in Kenya, and they're called Tuna Panda. We're coming up on our 4th Gigabot giveaway, probably in mid-June, and if you guys are familiar with any local charities or worldwide charities, we'd be happy to take their information and put them into our pool when we submit it to an outside agency and they decide who will get the printer. This is another one of our customers. They're in Bastrop. What they're doing is they've taken the 3D printer and applied it to the lost wax casting process. Traditionally in lost wax casting, you have to wait maybe a month for your part to be cured in a kiln. But what they're doing is they're printing this material in PLA, then putting a plaster of Paris around it, pouring in their bronze, and this burns out clean. So they had a contract with a museum in Australia. They'd never heard of this lost wax casting process, and the museum in Australia said, you need to call Re3D and buy a Gigabot printer and then send us 10 dinosaurs in 1/16 scale. And he thought, well, great, a 10 dinosaur contract, that's pretty good, but I don't know anything about this lost wax casting process. So after he bought our printer, he found out that people were coming to his foundry to use his printer more and more, so now they have 2 running 24 hours a day. And it's saving them probably I think Clint told us 60% of what it would cost him to traditionally build a bronze sculpture can be saved by using the Gigabot at first. Another one of our partnerships are with Local Motors. We partnered with them, we've been in talks with them for about a year. They're based out of Detroit and they're building 3D cars that will be self-driving. There's a plan to have an Autobahn in Michigan that is only exclusively allowed for self-driving cars. Our founder, Matthew Fiedler, went out to Nevada a couple of weeks ago and joined the Drone Challenge. I'm sure that all of you know that May 7th was National Drone Day. Anybody? No one knew that? Okay, I didn't know that either. But it makes me more excited about having a drone. But we went out there, we participated in the Drone Challenge at Local Motors and had a lot of people out there engineering different, ways that 3D printing can attack the drone industry. Drones are kind of ubiquitous now, and I think that we'll find no drone fly zones very soon, but this is some of the drones that were there participating in the conference. That's something that we'll see, I think, in the future too, that the tasks that people were normally assigned to do will be done by drones. So you have, new innovations in technology like wind turbines, and to get people to go up there, there's a lot of liability insurance, but if you can send a drone up there to take a look at what's happening, it's much more cost effective. This is a picture of the moon. We've seen a lot about the Made in Space program and the ability to take 3D printers to different supply chains. And I think that probably in the future we'll have 3D printing technology to help us put the bases that are on the moon that probably should have been there 10 to 15 years ago. This is our core team from Re3D. Our founder, CEO, Samantha Snabbs, who I mentioned before, just gives you a background about them. And our Kickstarter campaign started in January 2013. And we have over $1 million in sales. We finally hit $2 million in sales this past March. And we're very excited about that. So the Gigabot lets you print things that are bigger than a few bed boxes. Probably, it's more like a washing machine size. And we can engineer a printer to make it any size that you want. We currently have in operation it was going to be a meter bot, but then when we did the measurements, it was actually 42 inches by 42 inches by 50 inches. And so now we call it the Terabot. That's under $40,000. So if you know someone that really needs large scale printing, we'd be happy to hear from them. But I'm glad to see that what we're seeing in the community is people that are more interested in 3D printing. Marshall was lucky enough to bring over his 3D printers, so mine didn't come, but you're welcome to see 3D printing in action. And I guess that was my presentation. I was over at OSCON today too, so I apologize for the lack of taking a look at the presentation, but I'd be happy to answer any questions about 3D printing and make you all experts by the time you leave. Yes?
You asked if we know any charities that would be good recipients. And I'm wondering, what are the existing recipients? How are they using it? Like, how are they getting benefit out of the donations?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Tuna Panda, that's in Nairobi, they're using it for not only hands for their children that got like blown up hands in landmines. They're using it to build a plumbing system over in their city because the plumbing system is very decayed. They don't have fresh water, so they printed pipe for their city. I don't know how the other ones are using it though, but probably mid-June we'll be coming out with our 4th Gigabot giveaway, and we'll launch it on our blog site on re3d.org. And you can, if you know of a charity that is worldwide, you could have them submit a proposal to us for it, what they would use it for. Yes?
What sort of advances are you guys seeing for like increasing speed of 3D printers?
Increasing speed?
Yeah, the speed with which they can actually make things.
So you'd think that 130 hours is a long time? Probably is, right?
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I need 125.
Well, it works while we're not working. So I think the problem is the evolution of technology. We still have, in our printer, it's called FDM, so it's melting plastic and layering it down, layer on top of layer. So our limitations are friction, how fast can it get this filament out, and how quickly can it cure? Because we could print faster, but that material is not cooled down enough to adequately stick to the next layer, so you could get a big mess. And there are other types of different 3D printing, but I'm not really an expert on those types of 3D printing. Like the one that's an ooze that they pull something out of, I don't know how that works.
Are you seeing people use this to print molds that are then used as castings, so like urethane castings and other things like this?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of people using that. We have some customers in California that are using it for car parts, for bumpers, also engine parts, but they're not printing the material in metal. They're making casts of it. So like this, imagine this, and then putting a plaster Paris mold around it with 2 holes on top, then pouring in maybe silver or bronze or copper, let that cool, and then you can break it away, because this burns out clean in a hot wax, or in a hot pour like that, and you'll get the actual image of this. Yes. Marshall.
I didn't have one. I'm sorry, what?
Marshall.
What, yes. Sorry, I was just nodding. I have a question.
Should have a question.
I should.
Should know already.
Did you say 42 inches was the build area or the size of the machine?
That's the build area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a giant terabyte.
All right.
The machine comes 2 ways as a kit or fully assembled, and I've got some other sample prints over there, and be happy to answer any of the questions for you if you have it. Yes, sir.
Are y'all planning any development expansion here in Austin?
Any what?
Any development expansion? You said you do manufacturing down at Houston.
Yeah.
But as far as developing new machines, new technology for 3D printing, are you doing any expansion of your development teams here in Austin?
You know, there are a lot of applications for 3D printing, and I'm not an expert in how things are developed. We have a small sales office here. It's just downtown, and maybe 5 people work out of it. The partnerships that we have are with, Local Motors, Tuna Panda. We're trying to get, we're still a Kickstarter, and we're still bootstrapped. So we don't have the capital to invest in, really expensive partnerships with people. And the people that are doing it are still doing it out of the love that they have for 3D printing and that innovation, because we want to see it, reach the most people the most affordable way. Yes, sir.
What materials do you print, and what do you do for fume control, fume extraction?
For what was the second part?
Fumes extraction.
Sure. I can show you the photo of the printer again. So that's kind of the evolution of thermoplastics, where what can we print in, what durability does it have? We print in we've tested 40 different types of filament. It extrudes under 250 degrees Celsius, so it opens it up to a lot of different nylons. Nylons have better strength, but some materials are toxic to print in. I think that's what you were asking about, like an ABS. We just don't print an ABS, or we put a cardboard box over it to keep the fumes contained. But the reason that our machine is not fully enclosed is because that would violate some patents of a larger billion-dollar company. Stratasys has been in the business for 3D printing since like 1987, has lots of patents that they keep filing to make sure that they continue to kind of keep smaller players out of the marketplace. So I think that they're really upset for a smaller company to come along like us to make a $10,000 printer that would compete with their $120,000 printer.
Is there any secret sauce to building it cheaply, to making a cheaply available one versus $120,000?
Yes, you can download the plans on Revolver and make it cheaper for yourself. You'd have to have a machine shop. You'd have to build the 80/20 yourself. A lot of the material that we get, which is 80/20, we just send back because doesn't meet our quality control specifications. So we test everything and probably send back 30% of the material that we get. But that's the cool thing, that now you can make your own 3D printer and bring it to wherever you go, right?
Do you have a problem with straightness from 80/20? Is
Problem with what?
Like straightness? Like what spec does the 80/20 not hit?
Yeah, it doesn't, it's not straight when we get it. Or it bows. Anyone? Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Todd. At this point in the evening, I'm going to open it up to anyone who just wants to say hi, announce a new project, announce their availability in the workforce, or announce that they're hiring. Actually, speaking of 3D printing, I was going to just hand this over to Marshall to introduce himself and talk about the awesome thing he brought.
Yeah, hi, I'm Marshall. I have a little service provider outfit in South Austin, Proto Builds, and we 3D print parts for people and prototype CNC machines, medium duty, light duty stuff like this little 3D printer, which we sell a few of occasionally. And I just brought it here because it was a 3D printing event I noticed and thought, why not bring the machine? Also, Taylor over here, he runs a prototyping 3D printing shop. He's got about 16 FDM 3D printers and an SLA 3D printer. So as service providers, him and I are great people to go to if you are turning out, iterations like that.
Awesome, thanks for, and people can come by and check out your goodie. Anyone else want to say hi or announce something?
Yeah, separate and apart from Re3D, in Bastrop, I think in a week now, there's a conference called the Global Breakthrough Energy Movement, and it's at globalbem.com. What they're doing is they're trying to explain sequester technology, so rotational physics. There'll be a lot of really smart people there talking about like different suppressed energy systems, or you could sign up for a live stream of the show. And I'm not part of the show, but I'm going and just think it's cool. And anyone that's interested and has a physics background or a technology background, they should check out globalbem.com and see me in Bastrop.
Cool. Anyone else?
Hi guys, my name is Guy, and I'm a technical advisor for a company that's about to relocate to Austin, and they're looking for an app developer. If there's anyone here who can develop an app for a Roomba, I'd be very interested in talking to you. Thanks.
All right, get some more food, get some more drink, and I'll just ask you to please clean the trash around your area. And thank you guys for coming. Josh also has some goodies up front to check out. Oh, is that what you were going to say?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Thanks again, guys. Take care.
Well, I guess you try to walk past and eat all the first thing I did was let me talk about what's gonna happen? We were going to talk about
Well, I'm really surprised by
I was thinking, I knew some of the projects
well tested
Yeah, like I saw, like, I thought I would be, instead of like, yeah, I think that'd be really yeah, that'd be yeah, I think that's part of it. Yeah, for 5 minutes.
Drop us a line, create our guide, shoot me an email, or just get those on
For the last one, right?
Right.
Guy. I didn't remember.
I didn't say what I was, but now I have it too.
So my day job is at National Instruments.
Oh, really?
And they had a 40th anniversary.
Okay.
40th anniversary last year.
This configuration is
One of the R&D teams just bought an off-the-shelf robot. They programmed it and created a little slicer. Your presentation totally, I had to show you.
Yeah.
And it's got, I think you envision a measure.
Yeah, I don't know. I can see
It's a demo.
Yeah.
But I like the tool. I'm a fan of that.
Here's my tool.
The cool thing about this is, hey, I'm everything going well?
Couldn't even tell.
I forgot to tell everybody that I came from a designer. I did some scale models of it when I was in Detroit. I finally got a chance to do it. So,
Pretty well designed for training.
you take it off and look around. It's pretty well designed. It's got a solid.
Yeah, but it's all basically shells.
Well, the problem is that
You would never make this any other way.
You could make it sort of
The resolution on that is pretty big.
every house has a
Gigabyte.
You just have that. That would be
Standard.
standard.
Yeah, that thing can print pretty fine detail.
Yeah, we use the 8-3D. So let's see how much it holds.
I bet you hold a lot of weight. It's
Yeah.
pretty sturdy.
I'm gonna guess about 1,200 pounds on the stool.
And then with
That
That's a new material we just put in. I think it's Shapeways PLA. No, that's ABS that we printed in. Yeah, that's red ABS. Doing some filament testing on it. Okay.
It's acetone.
And then the transmitters are what? So yeah, I mean, if you want to send us a picture of that, we could try and print it, but I'm not sure. You can't do any apparel or
Software defined frequency will be able to switch the antenna.
You can swap these out.
Yeah, if you were to prototype a plastic chair anytime, if it was to be an injection molded chair one day, yeah, that would be wildly expensive. You'd have to pretty much just simulate it. But then again, that's not really what it's kind of. I guess if you're building furniture, labor cost is
I should have given my speech out here, right?
anything like that. It's going to put you way over the mark what that's worth of material. I'm talking about like, if you're a custom furniture maker and making high-end crazy furniture, you're going to spend like maybe a couple evenings making good and making a stool of this size or a chair of that size. But then of course you can't do these kinds of shapes and sort of envelope, you know, contours and such. So
Well, yeah, you can
it
run
has like a direct product in it itself, you know, rather than just a prototype. It's not a product.
Yeah,
Once you
well,
get to that size,
it's a couple $1,000 if you want to sell it, but it's $150 to make. So you're only paying for the material costs and the 10 cents kilowatt hour for the printer to run.
No, I'm sure there are parts from
No, the legs have an infill in them. They're probably, what's the infill on them?
20%.
Imagine not. 30% probably. So it's really durable.
Couple shell layers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I use the volcano nozzle, even a lower layer, just because it's thicker wall for one, you know, 1 millimeter nozzle will give you a wider 1 millimeter wall doing
so it's like, could this be good patio furniture?
Well, no, it would not be good patio furniture. PLA likes to melt in the hot sun, so it would not be good. What's good UVA?
BET would be your option for outdoors.
BET is good for ice cream.
Yeah, absolutely. And low warping, so you can work on price size with a heated chamber.
Yeah.
You get about this big even with PET. Well, even with PLA, it's not heat print that big. That's going to work. If you printed it just on your legs, this is printed upside down, but if you print on its legs, you can do it. It's not many problems.
I have a question.
Sure. Thank you.
For structural, I'm sorry, when you were,
So he's going to get PET from it.
for structural products, is there a standard ratio for strength?
Well, I do.
Injection molded? Is there kind
Thank you.
you can't do FBA on a layer.
You can max it out to like 3,000 bucks.
Even with 100% install, that's what
They say 100%.
It's
Make sure.
probably best.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, versus would be almost the same, but I guess you can break it along the layers.
Yeah, get the size.
Especially if there's
Maxed out with all the prices.
Yeah, and the stress is after.
Where are you making it?
Yeah, at Carver's Design, just down in South
You know,
Carolina.
throughout.
You're
You know, they're all
yeah,
pulling
so
it
do
together
like
like the roof is dropped, you know, and then you put the hammer will be like catastrophic.
not at the time. Not that size.
better.
This space is perfect.
Oh, yeah, but I think
They have an Airwolf right now.
have something
Yeah, I love Airwolf.
hard, you know, for solid. Yeah, I mean, they have their own problems.
I think it's really
Yeah, I mean, that's how long will it sit? Yeah, I mean, you have to have the right application, right? So if you're doing smaller molds, use 3D print, or you could use the plate to do the same print multiple times. It saves on that, where you could run 24 different clips in a day versus 40. We don't really fill up our envelope because it's a ZXS and ROMs, and we don't really fill that up ever. So this is kind of like a unique piece for us because we wanted to see like how big it could be. You know, mostly we're printing parts for a 3D printers or for sale for customer contract prints that they want. So
is this the typical resolution of the print?
Was it what?
Is this the typical resolution of the print?
So you're asking about the top of it, or? I think the print layer is 220 microns. We can print in 100 microns. Most of the prints we do are around 200 to 300, 250 to 300.
This mesh has got some remesh low poly things from the actual model, but I mean, like all of that's the model, and it's actually pretty smooth.
Oh yeah,
where it's a flat surface.
I'm pretty sure if you put the thing on here, because he's in a century frame, you can feel like the artifact of how it was originally a wood piece. So yeah, I think it was scanned.
Yeah, and that's why they have this weird like random polygon version.
Yeah, so it's not like it's completely 3D rendered, but if it were that, it would be a lot more smooth. But you're going to get the effects of like wood carving in this too, because it was scanned piece and scaled down, scaled up. So along here,
this is pretty much
satisfying, right?
It's really light. It looks like it's really heavy, but it's like, it weighs like nothing.
It's like 7 pounds, about half the filament's full. Is it no, it's about 30% infill, so it's 70% poly.
That's all. That's when I was in the sale.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you guys, I appreciate it.
I'm not interested in this one.
Do you have a third car garage?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a third car garage you'd like to put in?
I live in Austin. I could have it. Most people don't even have a one-car garage.
How many printers do you have at your house?
House, living room, and garage. No, well, so I was just gonna put a little tent when I was thinking about building something else. So I still don't have one that I put a little cardboard in the backyard. The summer months from 15 to December, and I'd be happy with like. I type it like. Myself, 18 by 18 by 30 inches, and the printer I built for Black here in town available. It's meter by meter, and it's 9 feet. Most of the stuff that we do now is like within 10, 12 by 12 by 14.
They shipped our stuff to the wrong address.
Oh, you
nice.
Is
the bill to address or the ship to address? Yeah. What are you getting now? Maybe let me download it. Probably be cutting down a 3D printing as well. We do it. It's about,
Oh, SLA? I built a DLP SLA a while ago. I had top down, just a nail to high forward, with projector. Yeah, the sun, if I left it out in the sun to cure for a little too long, it got real fast. And I mean, it did not hold up anything for
I've put that, I've defined.
Do y'all do any more? Are you constantly iterating like
We will be.
Oh, okay.
We will be coming out. We've got a kind of longer object we need.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be small, the radius will be small, the end will be small, but it'll be more. Probably break it up.
Do you okay design for those sensors?
This is called Techstars. There are areas that are 300,000 or 400,000.
Oh, well, I've won, Taylor over there, and Richard out somewhere, he's one. Yeah, anything smaller than an M3 screw, and it's like, gonna fit, but it's gonna be needed to build out, you know. Although I've done some stuff from scratch, and some things we wanted to recreate, and it took me like 4 or 5 attempts, but I got it identical, you know, and Thomas was like, oh, cool.
This is primarily
But I actually think about leaving here.
So that's I think it will be we need to, I think that, you know, think about it. How many coaches do you have a specialized one? Spend a couple $100 a month to train themselves. That same less effort, same amount of effort, but needs less money. You get this. All you're doing is you have a we run. It's the same and string could be.
Yeah, Jake Marshall's car. You made 3D print around we could close to sign by so yeah. They were in we're doing something weird. Normally we don't understand how do I remember the sounds like job everybody. So anyway, calendar was programming.
Because it's programming dictionary.
I honestly think you whoever else who's your job designers, smart designers, having the machine, even just having the experience messing with it, is going to make their iterative process. Unless they already have 3D printers development, like I totally 100% got the tolerances for what this thing needs to be all on lockdown. Yeah, I need it right on my desk. I'm always making this change when I was going to start this print. I'm like, cancel, redo it, you might never be satisfied with sending something off. The second I send it off, I notice how wrong it was.
Yeah, for us,
volume. Taylor behind you has 16 FP100s. One line is it's worth hitting up if you're in a hurry. Drop down into that. We're looking for a cheap price.
They're basically the same.
So the other side is then having something to manage it. You know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. It's like the first, client that I noticed was a business company. Had 2 MakerBots. In their office. They're like, we're sick of them. We're gonna put them out the window. Let's make these. I'm like, sure. Y'all realize that y'all had your developer hour was not well spent tinkering with the freaking broken MakerBot. I get it. I do it all day, I guess. But that's the part that I like. So it's sort of
when we started, run out of stuff in like 100 hours.
Yeah, simplifies government. You're now we're run out of building. They don't have it's doing all slow me down on infill, and I've gotten to where I'm like on like a segment or two of I tried to ship a thing this big. I didn't even know. I guess I just did not know how to use it. It's very expensive. Bubble wrap.
No. They said I don't remember. I think it's weird. Call them up and be like, right. So, you know, the game box is going to be somehow. Multi-source contacts, that's eventually what you're selling.
He unfortunately died. His case, a lot of synthesize exactly what he was. But that would be a big one. So take out text, it sounded like he couldn't type so fast. So he couldn't participate in this conversation. He was typing 100 words a minute. I guess it's just like they're the same guys that like keep up with that. So we were actually talking about it's going to come as well. So when this comes out, that's just all this is a FPGA-based video manipulation tool. It is built by the guys who do this software, this firmware. You can put this firmware onto other devices that already exist. They decided they didn't find which one their device. This is a well, that's the first part. But the other thing is, I have